If your garage plan for next year involves a new toolbox, a floor jack, or that welder you keep circling in the flyer, and you're telling yourself the price will still be there when you're ready, I need you to sit down for this one because Harbor Freight's low prices may not last much longer, and the window to buy smart is closing faster than most people realize. Quick favor before we get into it. Hit subscribe because this is exactly the kind of thing I'd rather you hear before you spend the money, not after. I'm Jerry Davis, and I've been buying tools for job sites for a long time. The good stuff, the cheap stuff, and everything in between. I've probably spent more money at Harbor Freight than I'd ever admit to my accountant. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly why those prices are under pressure, which tools to grab now, which ones to skip no matter how cheap they get, and how to spend your money like someone who actually uses their tools instead of someone who just collects them. So let's start with the part most people never think about. Why is Harbor Freight cheap in the first place? It's not magic. The overwhelming majority of what's on those shelves comes out of factories in China. Harbor Freight doesn't buy from a brand that buys from a distributor, that buys from a factory. They go straight to the factory, slap their own name on it, Pittsburgh, Bauer, Hercules, Icon, and skip every middleman in the chain. That's the whole business model. It's honestly a smart one. But here's the problem. When your entire pricing advantage is built on cheap overseas manufacturing, anything that touches imports touches you first and hardest. And that's exactly what's happening. Tariffs on Chinese goods have been swinging wildly. We've seen rates announced at 34%, threats escalating to 84%, even talk of 125% at the peak of the back and forth. Now, I'm not here to argue politics. I genuinely don't care which side of that fight you're on. I care about what a $24.99 angle grinder costs when there's a 50+% tax sitting on top of it before it even leaves the port. Do the math with me. A tool that costs Harbor Freight $8 to land suddenly costs them 12 or 13. They can eat some of that. They cannot eat all of it. Nobody can. Some analysts have said certain items could effectively double if the full cost gets passed through. I think that's the worst case, not the likely case. But even a 20 or 30% bump changes the entire value equation of that store. Now, to be fair, Harbor Freight isn't asleep at the wheel. They've been quietly moving production out of China for a while now. Flip over some of the newer toolboxes, and you'll see Cambodia on the label. Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand. They're spreading the risk. That's the right move. But here's what no one tells you. Moving a factory isn't like moving a coupon. It takes years. The new factories cost more to run, and half the raw materials still come from the same places anyway. Diversifying softens the blow. It doesn't make it disappear. So what does this actually mean for you standing in your garage looking at your list? Let's get practical, because this is where people mess up in both directions. First, the stuff to buy sooner rather than later. Anything big, heavy, and made of steel. Toolboxes and tool carts are at the top of my list because they're getting hit twice. Once on the import side, and once because steel and aluminum have their own tariff situation. That US General cart everybody loves? That's the kind of item where a price jump shows up first and stings the most. Same logic for floor jacks, jack stands, engine hoists, welders, air compressors, and generators. These are tools you buy once a decade. If you know you need one in the next year, waiting to save $50 of maybe is how you end up paying $100 and $50 more of definitely. Second, and this is the part most homeowners forget, do not panic buy junk just because it's cheap. Look, I get it. Scarcity does weird things to people's brains. But a bad tool at yesterday's price is still a bad tool. If you weren't willing to own it last year, a tariff headline doesn't change that. Consumables like sanding discs, zip ties, gloves, tarps, that stuff will always be cheap somewhere. Don't fill your garage with it. Buy what your actual projects need in the next 12 months. Make the list before you walk in, because Harbor Freight is designed, brilliantly, I might add, to make you leave with things you did not come for. Third, let's talk tiers, because this is where the smart money goes. Harbor Freight basically has 3 levels. Pittsburgh and the entry-level stuff is the disposable tier. Fine for a tool you'll use twice. Bauer is the solid middle. Hercules and Icon are their swing at Milwaukee and snap-on quality. Here's my honest take after using all of them. The middle and upper tiers are where the value lives right now, and they're also where a price increase hurts Harbor Freight the most. An Icon ratchet at $60 competing against Snap-on at $150 is a great deal. That same ratchet at $85, suddenly you're comparing it to Tecton, Gearwrench, Milwaukee, brands with longer track records at nearly the same money. So, if you've been eyeing Icon or Hercules, that's the stuff I'd move on now, because its entire appeal is the gap between its price and the pro brands. Tariffs shrink that gap. And here's a pro tip while we're at it. Pay attention to what's already happening with the coupons. Old-timers will remember when Harbor Freight mailed out 25% off anything coupons like candy. Those have been drying up for years, and the deals have been quietly shifting toward the Inside Track Club membership. When a discount retailer starts charging you for access to its discounts, that tells you something about their margins. That trend started before the tariffs. The tariffs just pour gas on it. Now, some of you are thinking, fine, I'll just shop somewhere else. And this is the detail that makes all the difference. There is no somewhere else. Ryobi, Cobalt, Hart, half the tool aisle at the big box stores, and basically everything on Amazon under $40 comes out of the same region, sometimes literally the same factories, with a different sticker. Harbor Freight isn't uniquely exposed. They're just the most visible, because their whole brand is the price tag. When their prices move, it's the canary in the coal mine for the entire cheap tool market. So the question isn't Harbor Freight versus Home Depot. The question is, which tools do I actually need? And is today's price better than next year's? For anything imported and steel heavy, I think the answer is obvious. One more thing, because I know somebody's going to say it in the comments. No, this is not me telling you to max out a credit card on tools. Can we please not do that? Financing a tool hoard because of a headline is worse than any price increase. If the money's not there, the answer is simple. Buy the one tool your next project actually requires and skip the rest. A tariff never bankrupted anybody's garage. Impulse buying has bankrupted plenty. And don't get me wrong, Harbor Freight isn't going anywhere. They're huge, they're smart, and they've survived price pressure before. The store will still be there. The 1998 feeling prices might not be. What I think you'll see over the next couple of years is a slow squeeze. Fewer deep discounts, quieter price bumps of $1 here and $3 there, more push toward the membership and the flagship deals, the carts, the jacks, the welders, creeping up first. Nobody's going to send you a letter announcing it. You'll just notice one day that the gap between Harbor Freight and everybody else got a whole lot smaller. So here's your homework. Walk out to the garage tonight and write down the big ticket tools you genuinely plan to buy in the next year. Not the wish list, the real list. Price them today, screenshot it, and make your move on the steel heavy stuff first. Then tell me in the comments which one's on your list, because I guarantee half of you have the same US General cart sitting in a mental shopping cart right now, and I want to know if you pulled the trigger. Because at the end of the day, smart tool buying was never about chasing the lowest sticker in the flyer. It's about knowing what you'll actually use, buying quality where your hands touch it every day, and timing the big purchases so the market works for you instead of against you. That was true before tariffs, and it'll be true after. If this saved you some money or some regret, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to see it. I'll catch you in the next one.